makes us remember that we are all in different fields, but all striving for the same aims, for the same goals of developing children with as many resources as we can put at their disposal, and thereby enhancing their cognition, but also their social abilities, and especially their capacity to listen and to find music in themselves. So this is what is the common denominator between the panel today. I represent both the Mariani Foundation and Il Sistema Europe, having a very operational role in both of them. I would like to tell you just 2 words about the Mariani Foundation first, and show you how we would like to have a cross fields, because our most relevant one at the moment is the one on neuroscience and music. We just finished the 8th World Conference on Neuroscience and Music a week ago, 2 weeks, actually now already 2 weeks, my goodness, time flies, in Helsinki, where specialists of the field, and you would be surprised to know how many there are. Our newsletter reaches thousands of interested people in this field. That's called Neuromusic News. Neuromusic is the field of the foundation that in a way collects the other 3, the care, the training, and the research. The 4th one being a very specialized group on cerebral palsy. We care about children with diseases of the nervous system and those who look after them. So we have institutes in hospitals that collaborate with us for centers. We train ongoing, in an ongoing way with training courses, several of them every year, nationally and internationally, and we fund research. So we have the centers and the research networks. We have all the various courses and publications and the international, and we have the various centers of care. The neuroscience and music is our most recent field. And that's why we have the conference, and then we have an Italian group, as well as this newsletter to which you can subscribe if you would like to stay informed. So the foundation is dedicated to diseases of the nervous system in children. And this is an uplifting part about neuroscience and music, about what the effects of neuroscience and music can be on the development of, through the ages actually, but starting in early childhood. That is why we have involved, and we are very grateful to them, both Dr. Luisa Lopez and Professor Emmanuel Bigon, who represent different facets. They have been allies in this adventure already for a number of years, and they are still with us. That means some good is coming out of our commitment. And so Luisa Lopez will start, because she will tell us about the earliest part of music education, as already mentioned by our chairman. And we look forward to having some important tenets to remember. Thank you, Luisa.
Thank you very much for this kind introduction, and thank you all for having us here to share our views on this thing and on neuroscience and music. And we are really happy to be able to talk about this, because right now we know how much of music is important in the life of children. I have accepted this because I like very much the first 1,000 days of childhood. So I'm very happy to share some of the information. What is it that we know? You know that the fetus is already sensitive to music, to melodic contour and timbre, and actually shows some learning, which is when we record the responses of the infants as soon as they're born, we can see that they have developed a certain amount of memories about what happened in the first years, in the first months in utero. So we can say that infants are actually equipped to process musical information. We know there are many, many studies that tell us that they can process each and every aspects of music. For example, pitch contour, rhythm, melody, tonal structure, scale structure, they are incredible. And what we also know is that this sort of predisposition is actually what is capable in children, in infants very early, and then in children, to make sense of the world around them. So it is really cultural sensitive, of course, but it is also sensitive to every context that they are embedded in. This learning is implicit. Emmanuel Bigon is an expert of implicit learning. He will probably go on into this. But the thing that I would like to tell you is that there are some benefits. In nature, nothing goes wasted. So why equip infants with all these capabilities if they cannot use them? And actually they do use them. So preterm infants, for example, thrive when they are embedded in a musical environment that actually attenuates the bad effects of noise in the NYCU. And also infants and later children are able to process everything that happens in their sound scene. And when I say everything, I mean both pleasant and unpleasant. I think we should really concentrate very much on the unpleasantness sometimes that they have to be witness to. So infant-directed speech is also, and infant-directed singing are also parts of this learning process. And whenever we have these good facilities for children to learn both speech and everything else, which is also music, they learn actually to attach and to bond. And this kind of bonding can actually help them through the stress of everyday life. There is a very nice protocol that is called still face, and it actually exposes children to a very small and short amount of stress due to the fact that the mother becomes suddenly unresponsive. And we see that music can soothe the child much more effectively than speech does. So what are the implications that we know of? We know that, for example, music can boost executive functions, which are the basis for cognition, the basis for learning. They are basically attention, inhibition, fluid reasoning, and actually problem solving. But also music, right now, we know that can lead also to more phonemic awareness, which is basically the first step towards reading and literacy. And we know, for example, that there is a lot going on when children start looking at instruments, playing with the instruments, even before learning to play. They actually perceive the texture of those instruments. They are already learning audiovisual integration. And so they are going towards the motor and fine motor and gross motor coordination abilities. We know that the playing music together, making music together, being around people who do music together fosters social communication and interaction. And we can basically see what the implications are, for example, in autism and in communication disorders. Let's not forget that right now, 1 child in 77 is affected by an autistic spectrum disorder. These problems that children have, together with other problems like dyslexia or learning disabilities, we can say that these problems will be definitely addressed better if we put music into the lives of these children. We also, of course, have social bonding, inclusion, curiosity, and openness to new experiences. These features are actually, as Dudamel was saying, the basis of a good citizen. So the final slide that I have is, what are we waiting for? There is a wonderful study, a 12-year-long study, a longitudinal study that actually took children from very early stages for 12 years in order to check periodically, every now and then, to check for their abilities and to check for their improvements in many areas. And we now have all the data. All the slides that I showed you have some references in the bottom part of the slide. So in the recording, you could go back to those, because all of this has been the focus of a lot of research, a lot of things that were going on. So early intervention programs have been coming up in all these years. So it is actually nothing new that there are many, many early intervention programs. The problem is that they are not really everywhere, and they're not always sustainable, inclusive of every situation. That is why we need to make them more available, and the earliest, the better, of course. And of course, we have to make them known and enforced. And so I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Luisa Lopez. I am sure there will be questions for you as well. Maybe you can stay with us a little bit longer. I think probably we will. I know that we have the main question time at another moment, but possibly because our colleagues, our scientific colleagues have rather full schedules. Maybe after Emmanuel Bigon's presentation or his introduction and speech, we can have a couple of questions. I think it's very important. One thing that I would like to keep on in the background in terms of timing, maybe Professor Bigon can give us some pointers about that, is what are the crucial times that we have to think of? So you talked about the first 1,000 days. What it has happening after the first 1,000 days in particular? What are those windows that are particularly I would say, rich in potential for introducing music education? Offhand, we would think maybe if children have to read and learn reading and writing, is it all right that they have to learn music at the same time? So if we can keep this theme also on the background, and we can then listen to Emmanuel Bigon, who is also a musician. So Luisa Lopez is in a family of musicians. There are lots of musicians, scientists. The connection between music and medicine is very developed, as well as musicians who go into science and vice versa. And Emmanuel Bigon has been one of the pioneers of this hybridation, but he also was able to remain also a professional musician. So here we look forward to sharing your experience, Emmanuel. Thank you very much. And also he has a lot of young students who are going into the same field. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I didn't prepare any slide, but I think I hope I will be clear enough. When I start to work with infants, what I was very surprised is the importance emotional regulation has for infants. And this is one of the most interesting hypotheses, that music has something very essential for human being to do with emotional regulation. With infants, this is really vital, that babies have possibility to have their emotion regulated, and music is a very good candidate for that. For instance, as soon as you start to have a musical relation with an infant, you express kindness for the infant, which is very essential for him or for her. And at the same time, the rule you use to express your musicality as a way to stimulate the cognitive capacity of the children. So immediately we have this interesting interaction between emotion and cognition. And for instance, if you have this very simple game, if you repeat that, there is no interest. If you say ti, the last syllable is different. So this is an increase in interest. But now, if you say that with an infant, this time in that context, start to be much more interesting because it occurs after several ti. So this, you express in some kind of musical way your kindness because you take care of the child, of the infant. But at the same time, you start to stimulate his or her cognitive ability, because in order to understand that is interesting, you need to integrate that in the context of 5 or 6 which is some kind of syntactic-like integration. So this is very simple example to show that immediately, as soon as you start to have a musical relationship with an infant, your action is both sides, one emotion, social, one regulation, kindness, expression of kindness. At the same time, you start to stimulate cognition. And this is the first very interesting links that music creates, and which is very useful for educational purpose. Then when we start to work with a child who are a little bit older, that start to move, the third part which add music is action, because when you play music, you are active. And then music gives the opportunity to create strong interaction between cognition, emotion, and action. And these three components are crucial for the development of a balanced personality in childhood. And this is something that music is very good to do. And in our Western life, style of life, this is something which is not so clear. If you look at what happened at school, the child need to be very clever, but they are not supposed to express their emotion, and they are not supposed to be active. So in our Western style of life, this link between emotion, action, and cognition are not so well developed. Music is one way to counterbalance this effect and to offer the possibility for the child to integrate this three type of activity in a nice, positive way. So I think this is the main interest for music, for education, is that to offer the possibility to develop a lot of interaction between these three main components of personality, emotion, action, and cognition. So if you use that, and if you start to create this possibility in the context of school or outside the school, then you start to see a positive effect of music at both cognitive level and social level. And when you run meta-analysis, when you look at all the studies that have been done over the world for evaluating the effect of music session in school, you see that you have very strong benefits of music, even though music is some kind of recreative activity, so a pleasurable activity for the child. It has a positive effect on cognition and emotion. And with Barbara Tillman, we have evaluated the size of this positive effect music has on the acquisition at school. And what we found is that the size is big enough, as big as the size of positive effect homeworks as on children. So if you are specialized with educational science, you know that ATI, for example, ATI has developed barometers evaluating the positive effect of different type of training methods. And so we can analyze the effect size of music and compare with a lot of other teaching methods that have been tested and evaluated by ATI. So the effect music has on the development of child, on the cognitive development, on the school acquisition is very strong compared to what we have found, what ATI has reported for a lot of other pedagogical techniques. So music is really something which is helpful for educational purpose, and it has a very strong further advantage that when you have a child who have difficulty to learn at school because they don't like the language, they don't like math, they don't like this type of training, if you say, okay, forget now math, forget language, what we are doing with you is music. And then they are more happy to do that. But at the same time, if you are playing music with them, you know that indirectly, implicitly, you are developing skills in math and skill in language. And we have, there are a lot of meta-analysis now showing that the effect of music on the acquisition of math is very strong with size effects very relevant. And so if you have a child having difficulty with understanding math, for instance, doing music is a very good way to help these children. And this is much efficient because you will increase the motivation to learn, because you are not using math to develop a handicap in math, but you are using another pleasurable activity to contour the problem. And if you don't have the motivation with you, the children will never follow you. So I think this is the two main points. I think music is very helpful for education. So creating strong interaction between cognition and emotion and action, first point. And second, it offers one very attractive way to contour the difficulties the children may have in some part of cognitive development, language acquisition, or math acquisition, by proposing him or her a different type of activity, but that we know will boost thus cognitive competence, which underlines the ability to learn language and math. So I think this is very good to have this activity in our pockets, if I can say that, because we have a lot of problems with education, and music is a very good candidate to help, to challenge, to face this problem.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I think also in your having summarized those two main channels of the, on the one hand, the connections that music creates, because in fact, in music, you're doing many things at the same time. Yeah. And more than in other disciplines too, but much more with music. And the second one, in the bypass of having music as a tool that underlies the possibility to overcome. I think there has been also, maybe that's one quick question that we could ask Luisa Lopez before we show some of the musicians in action, about dyslexia. Because you spoke about language and math, Emmanuel, but we have just 2 minutes before we reach our next section. I think Luisa Lopez was among a research team that early on worked with the rehabilitation of dyslexia.
Yes, we did that study in 2014. We have published it. It was a randomized control study in which we compared children with dyslexia doing music and doing painting classes. And at the end of 6 months of this intervention, which was a group activity, that it was very pleasant for both of these groups. And in the end, we found some very significant results in the phonemic blending and phonemic segmentation, which is something that is related to actually learning to read. From then, and also a little bit before then, there were already some meta-analyses showing some connections between music and phonological awareness. And now, as the time has gone, like it's about 10 years after, we can say that this thing has been proven also by many other scientists. And so there are many more articles, many more randomized controls and systematic meta-analysis that actually show us the effect of music in its parts. Some people actually stress a lot the rhythmic part. Some people also put in the melodic part and pitch contour analysis. But I must say that I, of course, tend to go into the rhythmic part because I like it. But I must say that all components of music are actually very, very good at boosting this kind of attention to these sounds. And that actually has an effect on reading.
Thank you very much. And in terms of movement and action, I think our next section can start with showing you what happens on the level of Sistema Europe, which is the byproduct of Sistema Venezuela. Of course, we remember the quote from Gustavo Dudamel, and that comes, of course, from the founder of the Sistema, José Antonio Abreu, about citizenship in music, but it's also about enthusiasm, so this balance between fun and discipline, and we can see that in the video that comes from the 2022 edition of the Sistema Europe Youth Orchestra Summer Camp in Madrid, where the young musicians surprised the municipality with a flash mob. Chiara, perhaps you can show us. We'll see, hopefully there will not be so much delay in the sync, but otherwise when there will be the possibility to search Flash Mob Sistema Europe Youth Orchestra in Madrid, as you see the title. It's on YouTube.
Yes,
but we can
share it also.
It's a very under 2 minutes, and it will put us in the frame to join then the young musicians. Thank you, Chiara, for playing this. So we are prepared. Every 2 years, we hold this gathering on a European level, and that does not only mean the EU, it's all of Europe with guests from other countries as well. And we are preparing the next gathering. It will actually start in 10 days. And we have, I hope, so let's see if our young musicians has been able to connect. We ask Francis, from the Nuclear Project in London, whether Kevin, who has been involved in this collective music education, can join. And otherwise, we have a plan B ready, which is a young musician who will also explain what it means for the well-being of children and for the right to health. The discourse is very important for us, of the awareness of children of why they are making music, what is connected to their growth and to their right to culture, to health, and to well-being. So and to education, of course, that's the basic theme of all of this. So Francis, can you tell us if Kevin is connected? Or Francis is muted as well. And
Kevin is trying to join right now. Probably in the following minutes he will be here.
Okay, so shall we first play the other video then from our young participant, from Salma, and then hopefully by then we will have the live participant on. Do you have the Salma video?
Yes,
Perfect.
yes, we can.
Thank you. So you are so multitasking, Chiara, moderator, technician. Thank you.
No, it's I'm supported by also your way of facilitating the event. It's great. So I'll share again the screen.
So this is a 12-year-old from Sistema in Lombardia, Salma, who we asked her, she was a little hesitant about being online, understandably, because we see how the little technical glitches can happen. And here we go, Salma.
Can everybody can see Salma?
Yeah, we can see her. Yeah.
Okay, I could play then.
Hi, my name is Salma. I play violin with Song Sistema Lombardia. Music is important to me because it's helped me meet nice people who make me happy. When I play, sometimes I feel relaxed. Other times, when it's hard, it pushes me to get better. So I know I'm growing as a musician. I think it's really important for kids to be around music because it makes us creative and help us think of new ways to do things. That's why every school should have music classes. If kids don't play or enjoy music, it's like taking away a piece of their happiness.